Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Each week we talk about the social media world, the digital media world, and what facts do you need to get out there and what's the best way to get them out to your current clients and your future clients. Drago and his team at Oak City Tech can help you. So if you go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you're not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest national networking or the world's largest networking association. And our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill, but we have a lot of new and growing surrounding towns. You'll meet one of them today. Each week in Triangle BNI, 31 chapters, about 530 members get together. Our goal is to help each other grow our businesses. And our guest today is Steve Grice, owner of Grice Insurance Solutions. Steve is part of the core group in Smithfield called the Smithfield Strategy. They meet at 8 a.m. at the BIA building in Smithfield. Steve is also the secretary treasurer for the group. Steve, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. Doing well.
Glad to have you here. Steve kind of gets the trifecta. He is a small business owner, he's a Jeep enthusiast, and he's a pastor at a local church. So I believe I enjoy firsts on the show, Steve, and I believe you're the first one that does it full time like you do, which we'll get into that. But insurance world, you've been doing it for a while, but you finally went out on your own. How's the stress level these days?
It's better. I mean, it's overwhelming. The first week or two was kind of overwhelming, but just trying to get trained and logged into all the vendors and to go from a captive agency to having multiple carriers now. It was quite a stretch to the first couple of weeks to get everything, get appointed, and do all that. But things are settling in, and we're rolling now. I've got a month under my belt and hit some target numbers first month. So in the
Good.
middle of training and everything else, I thought it went well.
Yeah, sleeping better these days?
Yeah, yeah. Prior to it was 4 a.m. every morning. Wake up 4 o'clock and grab my laptop and strategize for 2 hours while everybody slept. But
And
that's settled down now.
and one of the first questions you would ask yourself is, "Why did I do this?" Oh, yeah, that's why.
Yeah, that's why.
You mentioned a captive agent versus an independent insurance agent. And I'm going to let you go ahead and explain kind of the difference and why being that independent agent's a big deal for you.
Well, yeah, I started my career with Liberty Mutual back in 2015, and I worked with them for about 15 months, and then had the opportunity to come to Smithfield, come back home. I was battling that Raleigh traffic, and had the opportunity to come back to JoCo with Farm Bureau. And Farm Bureau is a great company. I had my personal insurance with them for 29 years, and was an agent with them for 5.5. But there was some restrictions there. I just kept telling people, no, we don't do that. There's certain things we didn't carry. And as things went on and I progressed in my career, there was several little niches developed that I really, really enjoyed doing. One of them was senior care insurance. I enjoyed working with the Medicare clients, which was not part of North Carolina Farm Bureau's purview. It was, our Blue Cross Blue Shield affiliation, but I was just with them, But I really enjoyed doing that, and I really enjoyed working with the small businesses. So as I jumped ship, those were kind of two of the things that I focused on. But now, rather than having one company to write auto home, one company to write life, I've got 8 to 12 carriers that I can write auto and home with. I've got multiple carriers for life. I've got multiple carriers, 20 or more for small business commercial. So it just gives me options so that I can help my clients with a wide range of situations.
I'm going to throw myself into this group that I'm about to ask you about, but I would assume most Americans like me that have insurance are probably underinsured. Would I be close to correct?
I would say so, especially right now. If you've not had a home review in the last 2 years
Mm.
since COVID, I can almost guarantee you're underinsured on that aspect, because when the lumber prices went sky high, building prices went up, um, supply and demand went up. Supply shortages, supply chain shortages. It created a dynamic in the home insurance world, that home prices skyrocketed, and home building prices now. I mean, a 1,500 square foot house, we used to, in very generic terms, we used to quote stuff out in this area at about $100 a square foot. In Raleigh, it's always been a little bit higher than that. In Wake County and some of the more metroplex places, but in Joco, it's been $100 a square foot. Well, now that same 1,500 square foot house is selling for almost $300,000.
Wow.
And there's people, yeah, and then there's people that are still insured for 150, 160, 170. And if they had a catastrophic loss right now, they'd be in trouble. So yes, I would say that too. And also on auto insurance, I would say 75, 80% of people that I deal with, they don't understand. When I tell them state minimums at 30, 60,
Mhm.
25, they have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
And so we we educate our clients here, because I want you to know what you have. And when you have a loss and you're I told this exact same story to a client. I said, when you're standing in front of the burning ashes of your home, and you call me and I come see you, the one question that I want to be able to answer is, Steve, am I covered? I want to be able to look you confidently in the eye and say, absolutely. So we do a lot of education before we sell products to make sure our clients know what they have, make sure they're adequately covered. Um, because the worst thing I could do is just stand there and say, I'm sorry, but you're not going to have enough to rebuild this. And I don't ever want to be in that situation.
And one of the things I've learned in BNI is to shop local. I think there's certain people you should have their cell phone numbers, your banker, your financial advisor, certainly your insurance person. For me, my chiropractor. Everybody's different, but they need to be able to call you because, and I'm not knocking any national company, so don't take it this way. But if you're living here and I'm working the switchboard in Seattle, I mean, I can pull your name up on the screen. I can tell you what you got, but is that really a priority for me? And the answer is no, but I'm not knocking the
Right.
people in Seattle. But for you, when your, neighbor 2 blocks away has something wrong, you're a priority for him.
It is. And to speak to that, I represent several of these national companies
Mhm.
now. And but I'm the first point of contact. So when they have a problem, eventually, are they going to talk to somebody in Seattle? Possibly,
Mhm.
but they're going to talk to me first.
Right.
And when they have a problem, they have a question, they're going to have me. And my cell phone number's on all my cards. You just popped it up on the screen. I mean, you know, that's the personal service that we can
Mhm.
give. Is, here's my cell phone, here's my email, call me, text me,
Mhm.
and I'll get to you. Now I'm a one man show right now, because I'm chief cook and bottle washer here. But eventually, we're going to bring some folks on when this thing gets up and going, to the point where we can sustain that. And I'm going to have staff, but for right now, it's, you might call, leave me a message, but I
Mhm.
will get back to you, and we'll work it out and we'll handle it. I think that is very true local. And that's what I love about being here in small town Pine Level. Is all these storefronts here is local,
Mhm.
and I know these
Yeah.
people by name, and I shop here, and it's just, I love shopping local.
And for those of you if you're not familiar with the triangle, when Steve mentioned Joco earlier, that's Johnston County.
Yeah.
It is one of the smaller populated areas for now, but it's growing quick.
Wow.
And Pine Level, we were laughing about this before we came on the air. Pine Level, you said, has how many residents?
It was like 2,188 according to the 2020 census. That's going to change.
Yeah,
Johnston
oh, yeah,
County
yeah,
for many years now has been the fastest growing county in the state. Clayton has
yeah.
become Raleigh
Mhm.
suburbs, and
Yep.
it's just, everything's kind of filtering this way. And it got to 95, Highway 95, and stopped. No, now we're east of 95, so now it's beginning to cross over 95 and come this way. we were chatting earlier. There's a subdivision coming right behind my shop with 300 houses in it. They're going to start building here soon. So, um, they say location, location,
Oh, yeah.
locations.
Yeah.
Well, their insurance guy is going to be right around the
Yeah.
corner because I'm going to be hitting every one of them.
I know there's a big
But
Amazon plant coming. What
yeah,
else is coming that way?
there's a lot. They're building. There's a food court coming right off of 95 there in Selma, which is just a few miles down the road.
Mm.
They're putting in apartment complexes. They're going to have an international. I don't think they call it a food court. I'm not sure exactly. Food hall.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
food hall, and where the old JR building used to be, they're putting in a dozen or so international cuisine. So the first food hall of its kind,
Wow.
and it's coming right down here in Selma. So we'll have some good lunch opportunities. They're gonna have Cuban food and Thai food and a little bit of everything.
Look
And then
out.
yes. I mean, this part of the county is a wonderful opportunity for growth
Mm.
here
Yep.
because they're putting in. I talked to a guy that works in the school system. I'll not tell his name because I don't want to incriminate him, but he told me he already gets enough. He already gets enough bad press just
Mm.
by working in the school system. But he told me if they stop issuing building permits, there's still 19,000 houses to be built in Johnston County before they issue another permit.
Wow.
So that's big. I mean, there's a lot of people moving
Mm.
down here,
Yeah.
so it's good for on all fronts. Uh, it- we're gonna insure them. My wife has cooking class. She teaches
Mm.
cooking classes. So we're going to insure them. We're going to teach them how to cook. We're going to tell them about Jesus, and we're going to get them to join the Jeep Club so we can have some fun.
And I think in 10 years, you can tell your daughter, because you're born and raised JoCo.
Yeah.
And I think in about 10 years, when you and your daughter are driving around one day, you can just look at her and go, this ain't your dad's JoCo. But progress is good, especially if you own a small business.
It is.
Clear one thing up for me with regard. Let's go
Okay.
back to the house fires, the flooded house, situations like that. They We should not be calling the claims department first. Shouldn't we call our local agent and then navigate that way?
Yes. I mean, that's my philosophy,
Yes.
right? And if you cannot get up with your local agent, then by all means you call the claims company. But um, a lot of folks, and I tell people that I say, if you have a problem, call me, and I can tell you next steps because you can tell them in the office here's what to do. But when there's I can sit here and tell you story after story after story. I've had countless people call me beside the road and say, Steve, I'm looking at my car and it's
Mm.
smoking because somebody just T-boned me. There's
Yep.
airbags. I mean, you could hear it in their voice. I've had numerous people call me and say, what do I do? Where do I go
Yep.
from here? And then just to hear the voice on the other line say, listen, call them by their first name. Listen, I'm glad you're okay. Don't worry about the car. That's why you got insurance. We'll fix that. Here's next steps.
Yeah.
And for me, it just adds a level of peace. That's what we sell. We sell a very intangible product. We sell a promise basically that we're going to promise to fix
Mm.
your stuff. And to hear that from a local somebody that
Yeah.
to hear them say, "Look, don't worry about it. I got you.
Y
We're gonna take care of you."
Yeah, because what I heard, and I believe I processed it right, that every time you call the claims department, I don't wanna use the word ding on your coverage, but there kind of is, whether there's a claim or not.
Well, everybody handles that differently, but when you notify and file a claim, it
Mm.
can have an adverse effect, um, even if it don't pay out. Claims history is part of the is what they look at in underwriting. Is part of the underwriting process. So, you want to make sure that you have a claim to be filed, right?
Yes.
And then here's a perfect example. Most people that I write now will put $1,000 wind and hail coverage on their home for a deductible. 500 used to be standard. Now $1,000 is standard. Well, I'll get a phone call. So Steve, I woke up this morning. There's a shingle in my yard.
Mm.
One shingle. Well, the likelihood of you getting that shingle replaced, hiring a handyman to go out there and put that shingle back, it's not going to cost $1,000 to do that. If you're missing one shingle, that's not going to be a claim worthy event. Now,
Yep.
if you come in and there's 1,000 shingles on your front yard, we got a problem. You know, we call and get that fixed, and we file that claim. But a lot of times, if a claim is not to the deductible limit, then that's what I tell people. You know, listen, if as long as the roof's not leaking,
Yep.
get an estimate on it. Go get an estimate on what it's going to cost to be fixed. Get a professional to go up on the roof and look at it. And then if we think it's claim worthy, you know, we'll call the adjuster to go out and take a look at it. And because I don't want you filing something that it's not going to pay out.
Yep.
In some cases it hurts you, some cases it don't. But I would just tell them, say, listen, get an estimate. Let's take a look at it, and then we'll go from there. Now, if roofs water's pouring in the house, yeah, we got to do something.
And
But you
here's
can
the
mitigate a lot of that prior to with just a little bit of information.
and here's the PSA today from me, and Steve, I believe, will confirm this. Uh, if you call a company to come out for an estimate, you may not know of them. You may have found them on the first page of Google, which your first conclusion is, oh, they must be legitimate and insured. No, not the case. If they show up with no lettering on the truck or the van, could be a red flag, maybe not. But ask them for a copy of their business insurance.
Yeah.
Please do that. I mean, you got to
Yep.
find out if they're legitimate or not. Because if they're not, you don't know what kind of work you're getting, and you've got no recourse if they mess up.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I would always get a COI,
Yep.
certificate of insurance,
Yep.
and have it on hand, and even referrals. You know, and that's what's
Mm.
great about BNI. You know, we know the people that we're referring, and typically, as you know, in the insurance world, the company I was with before, we had a kind of a maybe an unwritten rule or policy that we don't refer people in a claim situation because we don't want you to come back on us and say, well, you told me to use so and so and so and so. But what we had was a list of people. Hey, these are the people we've worked with in the past and had good success with. You might want to give these people a try. BNI, you know, we know these folks that are in BNI. We trust these people.
Mm.
We work with them. We see them every week. We know what kind of the quality of work they do. I don't have a problem giving a referral from BNI member because we know there's a
Mm.
standard that you have to uphold. But it is important to check them out, even if you refer somebody. And this is what I tell people. You know, this philosophy transcends the insurance world. When I'm preaching in the pulpit on Sunday, I say, listen, don't take my word for it. You go back to the source. You go back to the Word of God and read it and for yourself and learn it. Don't take my word for it. But same way with BNI. Even if I refer you for somebody, do your due
Yep.
diligence. Make sure they've got insurance. You know, because something might have happened between the last time I dealt with them and now, and they may not have insurance. So, very key point. And I affirm that 100%. Yes.
And so let's move on to your other life, your side hustle. I don't know which one's your side hustle. I think both of them are probably 40 hours a week if I ask you.
Yeah,
Uh, you,
that's a lot.
yep, you are the senior pastor of New Life Baptist Church. And I
Yes,
was
sir.
doing some reading. I do some a little bit intel on the show, so I know kind of what I'm talking about. And I hadn't thought of it till I read the article that you navigated the church through COVID. And it's almost been so long ago that it's since it started that we've forgotten about those first few months, or it's been going on forever. It's just the way we do things now. But you had to move your services outside your church for a while, into your parking lot.
We did.
What was that like? How did you communicate with the folks? What was their reaction? And how'd you keep everybody together?
Well, first of all, we don't have a gigantic church anyway. Prior to COVID, we've a fairly small congregation. However, COVID did a couple of things for us. Number one, um, it really bound us together as a group,
Mm.
and that's we've always been a strong group anyway. But COVID really solidified that, I believe, because when we had to make the transition and had to make the adjustments to outside worship, you know, we did online for a couple of weeks, and I'm very relational. You know, I
Mm.
want to see my people. I don't want to go, or not my people, but I'm their shepherd. So
Mm.
I want to lay my eyes on them. Right. I mean, doing the computer stuff is fine, but I want to see you. Right. Because I can look in your eyes and tell if something's going on versus just standing in front of a camera and giving a sermon. So we decided as a group that we were going to go outside, and we had the sound equipment that we were able to pull out there and do. And we only did it for a few weeks. because of certain circumstances. It just, I mean, it was in, March, April, May. So it was springtime, very windy
Mm.
at times. And, I'm out there preaching and my papers are blowing away. My Bible's blowing. I mean, it was difficult. And our sound system had little gremlins in it. It
Mm.
would go in and out, in and out. And I finally got frustrated one Sunday morning. I said, you know what? I said, we're meeting into church next Sunday. I don't care what anybody says. And my wife's in the front. She's in the car. She's in the front seat of the car going, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. So long story short, the next week, Steve Bizzle, the sheriff, put out a public service announcement or a blurb or something and said, listen, um, let's have church. Let's
Mm.
get back to worship. And our church felt like we could worship indoors, and we were small enough, we had a big enough building that we could socially distance without it being an issue. We could have done that from day one, but you know, we're not the only church out there. But so Steve Bizzle said, hey, let's have church. Well, like an idiot, I got on Facebook and said, hey, New Life Baptist Church is having worship services indoors on Sunday.
Yeah, boy.
And WRAL got a hold of that and called me within an hour of me putting that out there and wanted to do a news report on it. They wanted to interview me. Well, the second dumbest thing I ever did was say yes to that. And so they called and we did a little Zoom FaceTime thing and they put that on the news. And within 24 hours of that broadcast, we were getting death threats. We were getting people saying, I hope your whole congregation gets COVID and dies. I hope I mean, just hope you all get sick. I hope if you get sick, don't go to the hospital. I mean, it was just,
Yeah.
it was a lot. It was a lot. But we navigated through that, and people are going to be people. And we did not have a COVID case in all of 2020 in our congregation. Um, we started trickling. We had a couple. My wife and I and my daughter got it. She got it from school, September of 21, and brought it home to us. And we've had a couple of cases, sporadically through the congregation, but not because of our meeting together. It was just they got it somewhere else and brought it in. But
Yep.
it was difficult to navigate, but we came through it, and just like a lot of other people did. I think the success story with us is a small church rallied around, what we were going to do as a body, and we stuck to it, and we navigated the storm, and we came through it on the other side, and we survived.
Mm.
We survived COVID, and the church didn't die. The church didn't go away. Our giving, our funding did not stop, and we're here today to tell about it. And we've had numerous baptisms since last fall, and got two more scheduled coming up. So, the Lord's blessing. He's saw us through this, and I think now we're on a steady incline of growth.
You went to College of Southeastern for biblical studies. How far back growing up was this your goal to pastor your own church?
I'm gonna I tell this story. I was 24 years old when I gave my life to Christ. It was in 1997, and even then, in '93 when I got married, 1993, if you'd have told me that in 11 years I would be a pastor of a church, I'd have probably cussed you out and told you were crazy. That's just how I was. I mean, so it was not on my radar at all. But over the span of about a year, the Lord really just dealt with me and pursued me and called me into ministry. And after running from it for about a 12-month span, I finally succumbed to it and said, yes, I'll do it. And I quit a full-time job. I was working at a Hudson's Hardware in Clayton as the outdoor power equipment manager, and I quit that and went to school full time for ministry. And he really confirmed that call during that time, and I started pastoring a church in October of 2004.
Wow.
And I served as interim for several churches until the first full time pastorate came along in '08. And I did that for 4 years. And then we had some 2012 was a rough year for my family. My wife's father passed away in January. My mom died in August. Both of them had cancer. And then we resigned the church in December and was just completely burnt out and just really in a rough spot. And we took some time to recover from those losses and ended up at a church in at 4042 and really had a wonderful 18 months there to recover. And God called us to new life.
Mm.
And I've been there ever since 20, I don't even remember,
Yeah.
2014 or 15 or something, but we maybe 20, or this is my 8th year, I believe,
I think it
coming
was
up.
15 what I read, yeah.
15, yeah. I can't never remember that.
Now, just for the Sunday excuse me, just for the Sunday service alone, how much prep time during the week goes into that?
Typically a sermon from start to finish probably takes, you can put as much time as you want to in it, but you can, 10 hours is probably one sermon.
Wow.
If you to study from the background to praying through it to just working through it. But I will tell you this, uh, 2 weeks ago, I woke up, thought I was going to do a sermon, and when I got to church that morning at 9 o'clock, it was like, no, what you're doing the whole thing, and something completely different. So in a span of about 30 minutes, we had a completely different sermon. And so it just depends. I mean, it really depends. But it's you can put. I would say the scholars tell you 10 hours is probably the norm for a well prepared sermon. I've done them in 30 minutes. I've done them in 2 hours. I've done them in 10 hours. It just depends on,
Yeah.
you know.
Will a theme come into your head? I assume this is very basic, and I assume a lot of it is kinda like a songwriting. You'll hear a word, you'll hear a phrase, somebody will tell you a story, and then you're like, "Oh, you know what? I need to work on that. I think there's something there to learn from."
Occasionally, if you're preaching topically, then absolutely you do that. You put those nuggets down and write them down. And um, for me though, Southeastern taught that ex, exponential expository preaching, right? Expository preaching. You take a verse of scripture, you take a passage. So like right now, for the last since January 1, we've been in the Book of Revelation,
Mm.
which is I've been in ministry now for 18 years, and I've never ventured into Revelation. It took me 18 years to be confident enough or bold enough to preach that. So since January, we've been in Revelation, and I like going through a book at all at one time, because you can go verse by verse, chapter by chapter, and you know where you're going to be in the next week. You just pick up where you left off and just go through it. And right now we're halfway through. We just got through chapter 11, and we're in some of the worst, the tribulation period. So I told my crowd, I said, listen, let's take 2 weeks off. All this death and destruction we're talking about. Let's talk about something good. So we did two sermons week before last, and then this week, and then next week we're going to jump back into Revelation, just kind of so we can finish it up by the end of the year. But I do book by book preaching.
Okay.
I mean, I've preached through almost every book in the New Testament in the last 8 years I've been there, and then we've done some Old Testament stuff, Daniel, and we've worked through some of the Psalms and stuff. But it's I like doing it that way. And then when I get those little nuggets and you put them in there, then
Mm.
if you get a topical weekend or something, you in between books, you can throw a couple of those in there. But yeah, it's pretty much like writing a song.
Yeah.
You old Baptist preacher said one time, I said, I get up on Sunday morning, I give them 3 points, a poem, and a leg split, and we're done.
You had mentioned earlier, your wife, Tanya, and I know that you have to have that support as well with either job you do. Now that you have
Yeah.
both of them, it's even more important. I always like asking the question here. How did you and Tanya meet, and do you both tell the story the same way?
Oh yeah, we do. It was back in '92. I had just come home from college, didn't have a job. It was the week before Christmas, and my aunt was working at the shoe show in Selma. And she casually said, "Hey, look, we're hiring part-time help for Christmas. If you want to come work a week, make you a little Christmas money, you can do that." So I did. And the first day there, selling shoes, like Al Bundy on Married with Children. I was a shoe man. And she told me, she said, "There's this cute little girl coming in. She works here in the afternoon. She's still in school. And she'll be here about 3 or 4 o'clock." Well, when she walked in the door, I was absolutely speechless. Just didn't have the words to say. And I followed her around that store like a puppy dog for a week. And that's how we met. And we met on the 18th day of December, and the 26th day of December, we started dating. We were both dating other people. We broke that off. We started dating on the 26th of December, and we got married on June 23rd. And we just celebrated 29 years
Nice.
together.
Congrats. So when did she get on the same page and think, all right, there may be a little bit of potential worth investigating here?
About day 3.
Let's see. You were at the moment.
It took
Okay.
me 2 days. Oh, that was day 1 for me. It was the first minute I saw her. I was like, she had a blue dress on. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Never forget that. So, yeah, it took me a few days to warm up to her. She thought she was going to marry a lawyer.
Oh.
Yeah. And here's this redneck driving a pickup truck, chewing tobacco with boots and jeans on. And she was like, "You just not my type." And I swept her off her feet. And here we are 29 years later.
Where was the first date?
The first official date was first night in Raleigh with the apron drop, and her brother took us and chaperoned.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the request of her parents, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you know him at all before this?
No, I didn't know any of them.
And how old
Met her.
how old was her brother at the time?
I'm not sure how old he is. He's a few years older. Tanya's the middle child.
Okay.
So it was the brother, then her, and then her sister. And yeah.
I was kind of hoping.
Short courtship.
Yep. I was kind of hoping for like a 17 or 16-year-old brother that the rule was he had to sit between you two wherever you sat.
No, we were too crafty for that. We would have found a way around that.
And did her brother have to give a report to mom and dad? Probably.
I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. They didn't like me all that much when we first started dating.
Why?
Her dad, I was coming to take their baby away.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And that happened.
Yep.
So six months later, we were married. So, in fact, I tell this story a lot. The night that I proposed to her, we went in. She had graduated high school on June 3rd, and we ended up getting married on June 23rd. So the night we went, tried to do it the right way. I took her back to her house, and we told her mom and daddy, said, "Come on, sit at the kitchen table. We need to have a discussion." And her dad got missing. Me and her and her mom went on in the kitchen. Her dad come out a few minutes later and laid a 38 pistol on the table in front of me. He said, "What is it you want to talk to me about, boy?"
Yep.
So
the only way to go. Yep.
Yeah.
Love that. But he obviously gave his permission, right? His blessings.
Well, no, we eloped. Yeah, we ran off to South Carolina. And we told them on Sunday and got married on Wednesday.
And how did that go over?
Lead balloons.
Mhm.
It didn't go well at all. But they said we'd never make it, and here we are 29 years later. So
Yeah.
defied the odds.
And
Yeah, it's a cool story. A lot of details I left out, but yes.
And who knew? With what she thought she was going to marry, ended up with a Southern preacher, huh?
Yeah,
Who loves Jeeps.
and finally, who loves Jesus and Jeeps, and who finally has made his way to the white collar world of insurance, and she's finally where she thought she would be 29 years later. So.
There you go. And she runs Tanya's Tables.
She does. She teaches cooking classes.
Cooking classes. So do you have any role in the type of classes, the food that maybe you want to learn to cook and you figure others would as well?
No, I'm the dishwasher. That's her expertise. That's No, we collaborated on some stuff because I've got the marketing mind, and so we come up with about 50 classes that she could offer, and we kind of put all that together in a strategy session, several strategy sessions, as she was getting this off the ground. But she's done, I don't know, I've lost count now, in excess of 30 classes since January. And she does those out of our home, and it's 5 to 7 people at the time. And her favorite class is homemade biscuits, how to make homemade biscuits.
I
That's
saw
probably her
that
most
one.
popular.
That was my second favorite one.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by the pizza and ice cream
Oh
class.
yeah. Yeah. Now we do those little helper classes.
Yeah.
We called them mommy and me to start with, but then it kind of excluded the dads who wanted to come. So we call it little helper. But we've had grandparents bring their grandchildren,
I'm on that
dads,
one. Yep.
moms, and they learn how to make a homemade pizza, homemade ice cream, and a brownie. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's really, really, really good. But I'll tell you, and she could tell you more about that, but there's the stories that the responses that she gets from somebody who comes in and doesn't know how to do anything and then calls her later and says, Tanya, I just made dinner for my family for the very first time.
Yep.
We've been eating out of paper sacks and drive throughs for years. And I just sat down and made a complete meal for my family.
Yeah.
That is she's told me that's the most fulfilling thing. I mean, other than her ministry work, but she's helping these young
Yeah.
ladies that don't know how to cook bring that to their family. And it's just pretty phenomenal.
When I meet somebody in my generation, especially from the South, I don't know if it was big up north. I just know of it having grown up in the South, was homemade ice cream. And it would usually involve 3 or 4 neighbor families. And we get the cream in there, get the rock salt, start turning it, throw some strawberries or blueberries or, whatever the flavor of the day was. And the kids would turn till it got too hard to turn. Then the dads or the moms came in and finished doing that. But man, homemade ice cream, wow, is that worth the work?
Oh yeah. Well, now, so Cuisinart has got a machine where you put the little tub in the freezer and you
Oh,
get it cold, and then you just put it on the counter and plug it in, and you put your stuff in there, and it churns it, and you don't have to do anything.
yeah, I get
Yeah,
it, but still,
yeah.
half the fun
I
hanging
know, old
outside,
school.
catching fireflies, right? Taking
Yeah.
your turn to,
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, man,
Oh yeah.
that was good stuff.
But
Some strawberries in there. Peach was good too.
well, we had a peach cobbler last night. She fixed us a little peach cobbler and some homemade ice cream last night.
There you go.
So good stuff.
Well, my grandson, we're just down in Charlotte this weekend, and so we're at the pool, and he's turning into be a daredevil in the pool, jumping and swimming and everywhere. But he does enjoy cooking. He's 4, and almost 2 weeks into. He's 4 and 2 weeks, and so I'll need to coordinate next time they're coming up here with what Tanya's tables class is,
Yeah.
because he would love that. We got him an apron and a chef's hat. Man, he's all about processes because he cooks with my wife. The two of them, that's their gig in the kitchen. And they'll start and she'll say something. He goes, "No, Lolly, that's the wrong order." So he'll know the order of things to do, especially muffins. And he
Right.
loves hands-on, man. He is
Yeah.
spilled and slopped and stuff, but he's
Oh
gonna
yeah.
stir it, he's gonna mix it, everything like that. So I know that's a lot of
Yeah.
fun for her.
It is fun, and I think the funnest class we did, we had probably 6 or 7 kids in there, and I was in there with Ella, with her, and we had this little boy who he's affiliated with our church, and it come time to knead the pizza dough, and Tanya told him, she said, "You can be as rough with this as you want to be, like with
Yeah.
homemade biscuits, you got to be real delicate."
Mhm.
But with pizza dough, she said, "You can just beat this to death, man." And I looked over, and he had his forearm, and he was smashing it down on the table, and he was beating that dough, and it was I was hilarious. We just died laughing at that little boy. But he was doing exactly what she said. He said, "You can be as rough with it as you want to be."
Little WWE work right there,
I'm
huh?
telling
Yeah.
you, man, he was auditioning for the
Yep.
ring.
Alright, so you fall into another category that I have nothing to do with, know nothing about, but I've heard of it, Jeep enthusiasts. Here's what I've learned. It is a very close community. There are hand signals driving down the road. You wave some certain way or out, what is it now? Show me that again. What is that supposed to
Well,
mean?
it's just how you doing?
Okay, alright,
You got your
and
grip around the steering wheel, and you just how you
okay,
doing?
alright,
I think
and
it's a variation of the redneck wave. How are you? How y'all? How's your mama and them?
I like that. I
So,
believe
yeah.
that. I'm sold
Yeah,
on that, whether it's true or not. I would bet
that's
$2 on that
okay.
in Vegas. And
Yeah.
the other thing, man, is there is no end to money you can put into your Jeep, is there?
I spent $4,000 on that before I made the first payment on it.
Yep.
So yeah, but it's done. I've not put anything on it in a while. But yeah, it's you can do as much or as little as you want to do to it. I bought that on really a whim. It was the truck prices had gone sky high, and I had an opportunity to sell. I had a GMC Sierra, and I had an opportunity to sell that, make a little money on it, and I wanted to kind of get something to play with. A little midlife crisis. I had looked at a Camaro and I had looked at a Mustang, and my car guy was like, "Steve, I'm telling you, you are not going to like that. Getting in and out of those little cars every day, as big
Yeah.
as you are." He said, "You're a full grown man. You don't need to get in a Mustang every day. Plus, you'll have tickets." So this Jeep rolled up on his lot one day, and I went over there and bought it that day. And I wish if I'd have known we were going to talk about this, I'd have some pictures up for you to show you the before and after, because it looks like two completely different vehicles.
Yep.
But it's a lot of fun, man. We've taken trips to we've gone to URA, we've gone to Boone, um, Valley Crucis area, and done some mountain climbing with it, rock climbing. We've gone up to Gatlinburg and taken it up there, and then we've taken it to the beach. We took it over to Davis Island on the ferry and camped overnight, went fishing.
All right, so that's the story I want, because before we came on the air, you and Amnon were talking about Jeeps, and you were talking about don't take the doors off.
Yeah, well, you can take the doors off. We've got some open air doors, metal tubular doors. You can take the doors off, and we put those on there because I got a 9-year-old, and I got to have something there, you know.
Mhm.
So we were cruising down to Davis Island that day with the doors off, and really wanting a big hurry, and it was fine. We cruised around the beach, drove on the beach the whole weekend, and then on the way home there was a threat of rain, and so I was trying to get home before we got wet, because at the top I think we had. I'm not sure if we took the top off for that or not. I think we might have kept the top on and took the doors off. But coming home, man, we were running 70 miles an hour to get home, and the wind just about
Yeah.
killed my 9-year-old in the back. She was about to freeze to death. She was wrapped up in 2 blankets, and you couldn't hear yourself talk because the doors were just open with mesh. So she asked us when we got home, she said, "If we ever do that again,
Mhm.
can we take the doors with us
Yes.
and
Yep.
take them and switch them out when we get there?" And that would have been a much better idea. But yeah, you live a lot of lessons to learn with that Jeep, but it's so much fun, man. With the top down and
Oh, yeah.
doors off, and it's the closest thing to riding a motorcycle without being on a motorcycle. So,
Well, and I laugh every now and then when you're driving down the interstate in a heavy rainstorm, and underneath underpasses, you see either Jeep owners or motorcycle owners.
yeah, yeah. I got hemmed up before. It's funny, before I rented this building, I parked out here one day and was just counting cars to see how many cars were coming by to find out what kind of
Mhm.
location this was, just doing my due diligence. And it wasn't supposed to rain. And the next thing I know, it fell a flood, and I didn't have the top on. So
Nice.
I'm boogieing down Pine Level trying to find a shelter, and ended up pulling in a church parking lot and pulled under their little canopy there at the fellowship hall and waited it out till I got dry. But yeah, you can get in trouble with that. But there's drain plugs in the floor under the floor mat, so
Okay. All right.
you can let all the water out. But
Let's assume business goes well, church goes well, Tanya's happy, everything good like that. What's the next progression in the Jeep ownership world from where you are today?
well, I think somebody asked me the other day, said this would be cool if you would, when you get employees, if you would buy them your company vehicle, let it be a Jeep, because we got it lettered up with Grice Insurance Solutions and everything.
Jeez.
But I think, yeah,
That's not a good
that's
idea.
nuts. Yeah, that's nuts. I really think the Jeep has a thing called Badge of Honor, and there's you can get a Jeep app and look all across the country. There's these trails where if you go do the trail, they'll send you a
Ah.
badge to put on your Jeep. Well, URA down right below Asheboro has one, the Dickey Bell Trail, and we actually did that last year, and I got my little my badge. We did
Alright.
it back in, I think it was in April, March or April. we went down and did that, and a lot of fun. But I want to go and accumulate some of those. They're all the way from Utah to, the Rubicon Trail, California, Texas. They're all over the United States. And I'd love to take that and ride cross country and just experience some of these trails.
And the ladies enjoy the Jeep life?
They do. They do,
And
man.
can I
Put the
assume
lab in the back.
Yep. Can I assume we blare country music going down the road?
That's a fair assumption.
Good. I like it already. I like it already. So,
yeah.
Yep. Anyway, Steve, enjoyed having you on today. Good luck with Grice Insurance Solutions. Good luck with Smithfield Group, folks. If you're in the Smithfield area, 8 a.m. every Tuesday at the Building Industry Association's offices. What street is that on?
It's Bridge Street, 301 Bridge Street.
Yep.
But for local folks, it's right across the street from the post office.
There you go.
The old bank, the stone building that used to be the bank.
All right, so 3 things for you. 1, a successful new business. 2, a successful new chapter. And 3, keep sharing the good word and helping us all out. I know you enjoy both of those. Big part of your life and who you are and what you do. So we've been putting Steve's phone number up on the screen. If you ever just need to check in and see, hey, Steve, here's what I got. What do you think? Right? Free consult. You'll let him know. Yes, no, maybe. Yes, like I said, I'm a big fan of shop local. Just, I need a cell phone number because if I got a problem, and that happened with me a few years ago, I got T-boned one night. Called my insurance guy at, this would have been almost 9:45 at night. Popped up, called him. He jumped on the phone and we figured out things, and it was a comfort. No, because the airbags, first time I'd ever been in a car where the airbags went off. And let me tell you, I just had to get out. Yeah, I got out of the car, out of the van. By the way, and I just bought the van probably 3.5 weeks ago. So please buy Gap insurance. That's another podcast we'll talk about. Cost me about $5,000. If they ever say, do you want Gap insurance? The answer is yes. And I just got out of the van, laid in the grass for a minute just to collect everything. I was, body was okay. Had some scrapes on my face, but just laying in the grass, thinking like, what in the world? I thought I had hit something. That's how hard it was. I thought there was nobody coming at me. And then all of a sudden this car from my right just T-boned me out of a side road in an intersection. And I thought I'd hit something head on. I have no idea what it was because there was nothing coming at me. But man, that's a scary moment.
It is. And I had that same experience. I T-boned a lady who pulled out in front of me. She ran she had a caution light and she turned in front of me and I hit her. And when the first airbag experience I ever had too. And I thought the car was on fire.
Wow.
But it was the dust from the airbag. Yep. But same thing, man. I got out and laid down in the median, and it's a traumatic experience. And to have somebody that you can call and kind of ease your mind about it is a big deal.
Yep. All right. Well, good luck with everything. Like I said, folks, if you just need to check and see what you got, if it's the right thing, Steve's an independent agent. He can, like he told you at the beginning of the show, there's a lot of people he can call to get you not only the best rates. Don't be hooked on the best rate. Be hooked on the best coverage. Yes. That's right. So you are properly covered for any instance and you don't have to worry about it. So anyway, Steve, had a good time. Good luck with everything. I'll see y'all in the meeting in a couple weeks here.
Sounds good, Mike. Thanks for having me on, and I appreciate it. And good luck with your personal endeavors too. I know you got some exciting news hopefully coming up.
Got a granddaughter coming here in the next 10 days, so I'm laying low from all meetings anywhere, so I don't get COVID. I don't want to get anybody sick. But yeah, we're just down there this weekend. Mom's doing good. She's ready to deliver for all the moms out there. I believe you know that point in that. But yeah, just waiting. Hopefully the next 6, 8, 9 days, we'll have a granddaughter. And so I'll be having even more pictures to show everybody.
There you go.
But anyways, enjoyed it. And we'll see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.